Welcome back. It's the big story this Monday morning. The state and the defense in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, at least the trial within a trial, are set to present their closing arguments. 5 men, that's Bongani Ntanzi, Muzi Sibiya, Mthobisi Mncube, Mthokoziseni Maphisa, and Fisokuhle Ntuli are all standing trial for the soccer star's murder. Griselda Lewis is our senior reporter, part of our team watching developments. She joins us now live, and it's taken quite some time to get here, Griselda. Considering all the stops and starts, this is quite a feat for the trial.
Well, absolutely, Ayanda. Great to see you on the program. Closing arguments indeed in this trial within a trial, as you correctly point out, expected to be heard here at the High Court in Pretoria this morning. Of course, that trial within a trial was to determine the admissibility of those alleged confessions, you'd recall, that were made by accused number 1 and 2. So the court had basically agreed the last time we were here to give the state until the 23rd of February, that was last month, to file their heads of argument, and the defense was expected to respond by the 1st of March. So both accused number 1, Muzi Sibiya, and accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, who took the stand in their own defense, claimed they were assaulted and tortured into signing the alleged confession statements. Well, the state, you'd recall, called a number of police officers who were present during and after the arrest of Sibiya and Ntanzi. This was in May and June of 2020, respectively, to answer to those assault allegations. So you'd recall that the lead investigator, Brigadier Bongani Ntanzi, who also took the stand, basically denied that there was any torture or assault, and basically claimed that both those accused had made the statements freely and voluntarily. So Ntanzi also revealed, that the suspects were allegedly known hitmen, and that also when they were gathering information pertaining to the murder of Senzo Meyiwa, he said it was apparent, of course, according to him, that the soccer star was not killed as a result of a robbery gone wrong, but that it was a contractual assassination. So basically implicating in that statement of his, the other accused in court, and singer Kelly Khumalo, who you'd recall at the time was Senzo Meyiwa's girlfriend. So that was another bombshell in what is now the a more than 10-year-old case. The lead investigator, Brigadier Bongani Ntanzi's affidavit, that one containing those damning claims, was dated November 2020 and basically revealed that accused number 1 and 2 in the trial basically fingered Kelly Khumalo as the person who gave the instruction for her then boyfriend to be killed. So Ntanzi's affidavit also reveals that there were alleged cell phone linkages between Khumalo and accused number 3, Mthobisi Mncube, and accused number 5, Fisokuhle Ntuli, and that Khumalo did not disclose, according to this affidavit or statement by Brigadier Ntanzi, that Khumalo did not disclose 4 cell phone numbers to police. Also startling, what we heard was that a photo of money which was found on singer Kelly Khumalo's phone was also found on accused number 3, Mthobisi Mncube's phone. You'd recall his phone had been confiscated at the time that he had been arrested. So the crux of where we are now, Ayanda, is that this is still the trial within a trial, but we've made significant progress now in that these closing arguments that will be argued, of course, inside court this morning will bring us to some sort of finality, and we're a bit closer to judgment now on whether this court will decide whether these alleged confessions that were made by accused number 1 and 2 should be admitted into the main trial. Remember, accused number 1 and 2 have taken the stand, as I indicated, have long said they were assaulted on multiple times. Police had brought prepared documents to them for them to be signed. They would have not signed them if they were not scared. They did nothing out of their own volition. That's according to what they said on the stand. So whether the court will believe the versions of accused number 1 and 2, this is certainly something that we will hear in the judgment. But of course, in these closing arguments that we're expecting to get underway today, that will bring us a bit closer to whatever that judgment will be, or whatever decision the court may find pertaining specifically to these alleged confessions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a melting pot of details, in some instances bombshells being delivered there during this trial within a trial. Griselda, we'll catch up with you a little later on, at least as proceedings get underway. But for now, Griselda Lewis, our senior reporter, live to us there from the High Court in Pretoria. Thanks very much indeed. Let's continue making sense of how things are likely to unfold later on today, especially because it feels almost like it's a bit of a milestone where we're at. I'll bring in our guest in studio. Advocate Mpilo Baloyi is a criminal lawyer and joins us now for his take on this. Lovely to have you with us. Thanks for popping by at the SABC. And yeah, part of what I mentioned to Griselda there is that it feels like this has been a long time coming. In many instances, we haven't really gotten to the meat of the trial itself, given this detour, if you like, with this trial within a trial. Speak to us about whether or not this was time well spent, quite frankly, given just how long this trial has been going on.
Well, thanks very much. Good morning to our viewers and good morning to you, Enda. It's a pleasure to be here. Look, we have to consider what this portion of this trial was. It is a trial within a trial. So we are still focusing on the main trial itself. But this portion was to determine the admissibility of the confessions allegedly made by accused number 1 and accused number 2. Now, the trial within a trial is to say, are these confessions admissible as evidence? Remember, the state still has the duty to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, and certain evidences may be unconstitutionally obtained. Now, the main allegation here is that, as the accused put it, is that they were tortured and the statements were not freely and voluntarily made. So this trial within a trial was an attempt to get to the crux of that. And now the court needs to decide, will this a portion of evidence be admissible as evidence in the main trial? So this was time well spent, and especially in protecting the rights of an accused person. Remember, throughout the case, the accused still maintains the presumption of innocence and innocent until proven guilty, and the right to a free trial. That still covers them for the entire duration of the trial. So the onus of proof and the evidentiary burden was actually on the accused to prove that indeed these statements cannot be used as evidence in the main trial because they were not properly obtained.
Right. Among the many concerns that have arisen over the past 2 months is whether or not the parameters of this trial within a trial have been correctly defined, right? Because it's easy to get into this rabbit hole, if you like, because of the many other things that come up. We heard Kelly Kumalo's name, for instance, being dropped at some stage, and follow-up questions that are leading us into all kinds of directions. Now that we're here and have the benefit of hindsight, I wonder if you reckon the court was diligent, quite frankly, in answering what's at the heart of this trial within a trial, which is around these confession statements.
No, look, we've had about 16 witnesses from the state, ranging from magistrates, investigating officers, etc., versus the 2 accused, and leading to the time of arrest, to the time where these statements were allegedly made. Now, this has to be time well spent, and the court itself has to be very meticulous. Remember, at the end of the day, it is also to safeguard the greater interests of the accused, to make sure that we don't end up with innocent people in prison and guilty people walking freely. So this portion had to be as thorough as possible, and if we followed the proceedings quite closely, you'll realize that the court itself, being the judge, was also quite very much involved. Remember, he's the ultimate decision maker, as the main adjudicator and as an impartial adjudicator. So that's why we saw the to and froms and the various engagements from the defense lawyers and the judge, etc. But all in all, so today today marks that end of this lengthy process of a trial within a trial, where we now go to hear the closing arguments by both the state and the defense.
Yeah, of course, you're referring to Zanele Mshololo and the judge at some stage having a to and fro about how long they've been doing this, etc.
Indeed.
Yeah,
indeed.
I mean, all of that color, I suppose, is part of what people have come to expect, for better or for worse, when it comes to these particular cases. But in many people's mind, and I'm sure the person watching at home is also trying to piece together the different scenarios from here on. So if you can look into our crystal ball and help us out here, what are the implications if this court does find, in fact, that accused number 1 and 2 were not making these confession statements voluntarily and freely?
Well, that's a very important point. And, the investigations, the investigators, police particularly, have in the past, and there's also previous case laws that refer to these inhumane treatings and torturing in order to get statements out. So hence the main elements as defined by the Criminal Procedure Act is that these confessions must be freely and voluntarily made, and the maker of such statements must be in their sound and sober senses. And it must be out of their own will and volition. And they should not be coerced or duressed in any other form. So now, the story we've been hearing about the blood stains and the first beat me up and so on, the court must now make an objective inference from all that evidence that has been given. I mean, we've even had the magistrate who these statements were made before coming to testify in the beginning of the trial within a trial, which also testified to their condition and so on. So if it is found that these were not properly obtained, then that piece of evidence must be thrown out and the court cannot consider it. But if the court finds that, look, amidst all the evidence that has been given, these statements should be admissible, and then it means that the defense has failed in the trial within the trial in an attempt to exclude these evidences. And the state will then be permitted to use this piece of evidence, being the confessions, in the main trial.
Sure. What we've also learned, of course, during this time is that some people have sadly died, you know, and that's just, I suppose it speaks to just how long this particular matter, since Senzo Meyiwa was killed, has been dragging on for. To what extent do you reckon that complicates matters, especially for the state? You know, the fact that they'd have to go through other means of corroborating what was allegedly taking place in some of those rooms, where people who were in those rooms are no longer around.
It is very unfortunate. And, you know, the passage of time brings forth many things, death included. And it just makes it difficult for the state. Remember, the state still has a duty here to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. And beyond a reasonable doubt is a very, very high expected level. And the only thing that the defense needs to do here is to create a reasonable doubt, you know. So as soon as, if you follow the entire story and if you follow all these versions, you can assess for yourself, is there reasonable doubt? Can we say that this is a proper conviction? Do we have the correct people in the dock? And so on, and all those questions. So the absence of others due to death, due to the passage of time, is actually very unfortunate for the state because it jeopardizes their chances of actually ultimately proving their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. That concept of justice delayed, possibly being justice denied.
Indeed.
Pilonhle Baloyi, lovely speaking to you. Thank you so much for your insights. Appreciate your time on the SABC News channel.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we'll certainly keep watching that story as it continues to develop. Of course, proceedings typically start at 10 o'clock. As soon as they do, we'll be live in court for you here on The Agenda.